Hello, and welcome to today's NEASC Virtual Global Forum, Student Voices, Reflections and Takeaways from the Past Year. I'm Beth Hamilton, Associate Director for the NEASC Commission on Independent Schools. I'm joined today by Jim Mooney, Deputy Director of the NEASC Commission on Independent Schools. We're so pleased to have students from a variety of schools with us today to talk about their reflections on the last year, what they have learned from their experiences, what they hope teachers and parents have learned, and what changes happened in their schools they hope will become permanent. Now I'm going to hand things over to my colleague and my co-host Jim to get things started.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you all for being here bright and early. I'm really looking forward to this particular webinar. As I'm known to say, this is where the rubber hits the road. At the end of the day, schools are all about you. And this is a webinar dedicated to your experience this year. I'll do my best to move the conversation around, and Beth will join me with follow-up questions. Bear in mind that we are getting questions as we go from those who are participating, as well as those questions that we prepared ahead of time.
Jim, actually, I think we were so eager to hear from the students, so I want to loop back and let them give a formal introduction give us a little sense of your school and whether you have been remote, in-person, hybrid, the size of your school. So let's go back to that and start with you, Denham, at St. Bernard's.
Hi, my name is Denham. I'm from St. Bernard's, located in Fitchburg, Mass. And our school is pretty small. Last year I went to a public school and we had about 500 to 600 people, but very small, tight community here. And we're full in person.
Great. Thank you, Denham. And Camille, do you want to add anything?
Hello, everyone. My name is Camille Moyne. I also go to St. Bernard's at Fitchburg. St. Bernard's is a very small school. It is fully in person. It is remote for those who need that option. But as of right now, everyone's at school, and we're working pretty good with the masks and masks breaks. So it's been pretty smooth.
Thanks, Camille. And you and Denham are both sophomores. Let's go, Anjali.
Hi, I'm a sophomore at Madison Park Technical Vocational High School, Boston's only vocational high school. And there's about 1,050 students that go here. And we just went back to full in person from hybrid.
Thanks, Anjali. You have a little fan club in the chat going. Will, tell us about St. Luke's.
Yeah, hi, my name is Will. I'm a junior. I go to St. Luke's School in New Canaan, Connecticut. Just looking at the website now, St. Luke's, it has 586 students. We've been in person for most of the year with the option to go online on a daily basis, kind of give students that flexibility. And that's kind of enabled us to stay in person for, I'd say, 90% of the year. So,
thanks, Will. Zaire, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a senior at St. Luke's. And I think, one of the greatest things about how we've handled the pandemic is we've been really on top of contact tracing and things of that sort. So, it's never gotten to the point where it spiraled out of control to where we all had to go back online. We've been pretty on top of that. So,
thank you. Vance?
Yeah, hi. My name is Vance. I go to Falmouth High School in Maine. My school is about 600 to 800 people. And throughout the year, I've gone to school 2 days a week in person, and then had 1 day a week of like Zoom classes, and the other 2 have been asynchronous.
Great, thanks, Vance. Loden?
Hi, my name is Lidan Mujammer, and I'm a senior at the American International School in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. My school has been providing students with the option to either go for online learning or to do hybrid learning, which has allowed students to make their own pick according to what they feel they're most comfortable with. I personally picked to do online learning, and I am very happy to do that. My school currently has approximately 2,000 students, so it's a very big and diverse school. And I am more than happy to be a part of such a unique environment.
Thank you, Loden. I'll pass the ball back to you, Jim.
So let's get underway. And everyone assumes that I'll ask the seniors to go first, but I won't. We're going to start with the sophomores. So here's the first question, and I'm going to ask Camille. I'm just curious, Camille, what have you learned from your experience this year? What are some of the lessons you've learned this year? Camille.
Well, I'm sorry, my announcements are going off, so one second. I'm so sorry.
Let's go to Anjali. We're going to ask, tell us about this year. What have you learned this year?
This year I've definitely learned to be more independent and like resourceful, using the things around me and just working my hardest, to be honest.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. Camille, are announcements over?
Yes. So this year I have learned that school is much harder than it seems. Like being online has taught me that the extra work and effort has to be put in without having that support constantly, like being in class. It's also taught me to be very independent, to pass in my assignments, to be on time. That's huge on being online. And yeah, that's pretty much my feedback for that.
Great. Let me ask Denham, tell me about your year. What have you learned?
I think I learned how much I appreciate social interactions with my peers and also adults, especially like at school, and being able to talk to guidance counselors and other people my age. So I just appreciate that a lot more.
That's good to hear as well. Vance, how about you?
Yeah, I'd say for me this year, the thing I've been learning the most about is really time management. My schedule is a lot more flexible, meaning that when I have assignments, if I can't do them one day, I can wait and do them another day, which has its good aspects and its bad. I've definitely struggled with, saving things for the last minute and then having like too much work. So I've been learning a lot about that.
Will.
Yeah, I think one of the big things I've had to learn this year is it's just independence, but having to work with like alongside teachers and alongside students, because we're all kind of in the same bubble together of going through Zoom school and going through online school. And so learning how to kind of balance people's reactions and emotions when it comes to online school, and then being able to balance that with my own kind of mental health has been a big challenge, but I think it's been helpful.
Yeah. Loden, how about you?
Well, this year I've learned a lot about myself personally. The COVID-19 pandemic hit each and every one of us in their own ways, and it's safe to say that no one could survive from the changes in the daily routines that it caused us. Personally, I learned a lot about myself, independence, the importance of getting up from bed and just walking those 2 steps to go to your desk when it's online learning, the importance of time management, leadership across the screen, leading students in clubs, collaborating with teachers, communicating, all aspects and characteristics that my school has always built upon us, but especially during online learning, they became more evident to work with. And I'm glad that I've learned that.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. Zaire.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was just personal accountability, because it's easy to blame not getting work done on network issues and stuff of that sort. But just learning how to be accountable for yourself and be responsible for all the work that you have to get done. That was definitely the biggest thing I learned being online.
Let me loop back. I'm going to go back to you, Zaire, right away, because you've been in the college process. How did the college process work for you?
I think I definitely had, I definitely feel like I was blessed in the college process. You know, I have a college counselor who got me started really early along in the process. I had started doing my, you know, common application work basically halfway through my junior year. So by the time my senior year started, I was basically finished with all of that. And, you know, the biggest thing for me is just staying on top of, you know, scholarship stuff and things of that sort, so that, you know, you're ahead of the game and you're ahead of the curve. And, you know, not taking no for an answer, not settling was definitely one of the biggest things for me. So.
Good, thanks.
Jim,
Vance, how about for you, the college process?
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing I felt really strongly going into it was that there'd be a lot of uncertainty this year. And I think for that reason, I really relied on the people around me, my family, college counselors, to really help me through the process. And that definitely made me reflect on like the importance of having people around you that help motivate you and push you to achieve the things that you want.
And then Loden, you're the last senior. How about the process for you?
Honestly, the process has been quite smooth. My counselor has been quite helpful alongside the school supervisors and leaders that have helped us navigate through the requirements for our universities, what we should and should not do. And the universities have been quite lenient this year, specifically with the pandemic. And that is something that we should all appreciate.
It is interesting that when you said lenient, I could see that Vance nodded yes, and Zaire also nodded yes. So that's nice to hear. What aspects of school from this year do you hope will continue next year? And for the seniors, it would be sort of a gift that you're giving back to the school. But what is it that you hope will continue going into next year? Let's start with Anjali.
I definitely hope like the resources and just the amount of help that teachers have provided these troubled times to the students continues throughout my high school experience. Overall, I definitely I've noticed the change in the way the curriculum has taken, so I definitely hope that continues because it's been pretty positive.
That's good to hear. Camille?
So I actually have two things that I would really appreciate if teachers followed for next year. One of them is I like having breaks throughout my day, having a mask break, being able to be outside, breathe between classes at least twice a day. That has helped me a lot to kind of just like take a step back and relax a little bit. The second one I would like to say is the amount of time teachers give you. They understand us more. They understand that we have other things to do. They're very flexible with homeworks and assignments. I think that has helped me a lot. I know some days I take a little longer to do my work than others, but those are the two things that I would really appreciate for next year.
Great, thanks for sharing. Zaire?
Yeah, I mean, I personally won't be at St. Luke's next year, but I have two siblings that'll still be there. And I know I've talked a lot with them, and one thing we kind of all agreed should continue next year is just, I don't know, as a community, we've become more and more immersed in the wants and needs of each other's, you know, personal experiences. And I think, you know, that's a big thing. We definitely gained a larger sense of community because, you know, we're all going through the same thing. You know, we're all kind of stressed out with this and that, and us being able to talk about it as a you know, cohesive unit is definitely one thing I take away and you know, bring back next year. So
That's excellent. It's really nice to hear. Denham, how about for you?
Well, at St. Bernard's, we just started a diversity, equity, inclusion group. So I think that is something I would want to continue till next year because we also did an assembly and had a guest speaker, and that really helped because we are a diverse school, but we do have less people of color at our school. And I think that also brought us and kind of opened our eyes to how we all need to take into account how we all have different feelings and we're all different people. And I think that helped us be a better community.
Okay.
I'm glad that worked. Thank you for sharing. Vance?
Yeah, I would say there's two things I've really enjoyed or kind of noticed as positive improvements this year. One of those is I think people are really conscious of how other people are feeling this year because there's so much going on. I know whether it's my friends, my teachers, it seems like everyone's just really like checking up on each other, seeing how people are doing. And I think that'll continue. I think it's been nice. So yeah, I'd really like to see that. And then the other thing is, I'd say both in school and out of school, we've been spending so much time outside, whether it's a class or just hanging out with my friends. And that's another thing I'd like to see continue. I think, it helps me focus when I'm doing my schoolwork to be outside. It's just nice to get fresh air. So I'd love to see that keep going as well.
Great, thank you. Loden, how about for you?
Actually, there are many aspects of this year that I would like to continue for the American International School. It's always had a numerous amount of clubs running and in action. However, this year we've had approximately 16 clubs, and all providing different skills or opportunities for students to try their artistic skills, their human rights skills by the UNESCO Club, the Student Council, the Career Committee to help students navigate through applying to universities and colleges. So all different clubs have allowed students over the online screen and learning to still have some fun, to learn more, and I hope that it continues over the years. And not only that, but also the different and creative methods that teachers have been giving students to submit their work. A lot of us have now become professionals when it comes to making videos, PowerPoints, Canva presentations, and I hope that the different creative methods are still applied for students in the coming years.
That's good. Let's hope so. Did I ask you, Will, on this question?
Not yet, so I'll just answer.
Let's go with Will.
Yeah, I think, I really want to echo what Zaire said. I think everybody's been, especially at our school, they've been incredibly grateful just to be in school and to be able, like, we've been able to do certain activities and bring those back, like kind of traditional community traditions, but being able to do them this year, like in person especially, everybody's just been so much more receptive and grateful to all the work that the teachers have put in, all the work that their peers put in, that the administration puts in. And I think that'd be great if that could kind of continue into next year. It's just really, it's a great influence to kind of have in the school culture.
Will be interesting. Maybe it might actually be, we talked about this during the introduction, bring some of you back next year, 12 months from now, and see whether how this is tracked over those 12 months. Beth, would you like to ask a question?
Sure. I'm going to pull a question from the chat, which was really specifically Will and Zaire, but I think Vance and Loden. The question is about the difference between instruction for when in person versus online. So you all talked about some options for being online. And the question is that asynchronous? Is it synchronous? And what are the differences between the instruction for the students in the classroom versus those of you that might be remote? And along with that, someone else asked about the workload. When you're working remotely, is the workload manageable, or do you find teachers are giving you a lot more to do? I don't know who wants to jump in. Will?
So St. Luke's, we have a camera and like a Mac Mini set up in every room. So if a student is on Zoom or chooses to be on Zoom for like the day, the week, etc., the teacher will just start doing their class and they'll do it synchronously. So when you're online, it is basically a 9 to 3 school day, whether you're in person or online, which has worked like surprisingly well. A lot of teachers had to kind of adjust to it, but they've really kind of taken it in stride and made it work really impressively. And I think for the workload, for me at least, I don't think it's been objectively more. I think I struggle with like burnout a lot more when I'm online. I think it's just harder to stay motivated and to stay kind of engaged. But I don't think, no, the workload has been kind of more, it's just been a little harder to deal with.
Thanks, Will. Who else would like to chime in? Loden?
Actually, at the American International School, students who are doing online and blended learning get the same education. So if you're doing online learning and blended learning, if there's a student there and one here, it will be in the same class where the student who's doing the blended learning would see whatever the teacher is representing to the students back at home.
Sure.
So the teacher is capable of communicating with both students at the same time, providing both of them with the same education, same curriculum, so that everyone stays on track. No one is ahead of the other. And it's been quite successful. All students are very happy with it, and hope it continues.
Thanks, Loden. Vance, you've got online. Please share.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with a lot with what Will said. Personally, I don't think the workload is unmanageable online, but 100%, it's really hard to stay motivated, to stay focused, to stay engaged. Just lacking those human interactions, I think, is really difficult. I find the 2 days a week I go into school, I'm able to accomplish a lot of learning. I think both classes and teachers are really motivated to work really hard because we only have like 1 or 2 days a week. But when I am online, I'd say it's really difficult for sure. Even just a small assignment for me, I'll end up pushing off. It just doesn't go as well as I think we would all like it to.
Thanks, Vance. Camille?
So here at St. Bernard's, we kind of have what Loden had said. In the classrooms, the students that are in person, but the students that are online actually, so my teacher will set up a camera and he'll have a microphone. So the students will actually see what the teacher is presenting in class. So the kids online won't fall anywhere behind or too ahead, like she said. Most kids at my school are in person though, so it works out pretty good. So there's usually just like 2 or 3 people online. Some classes we don't have any kids online, so the teachers manage it well. And if a kid does fall behind or someday doesn't come to school, we do manage to help them out good if it's not a student or a teacher.
Thank you. Anybody else? Otherwise, let's go back. Jim, do you want to pose
Sure.
the next question?
Yeah. Is there anything specific you would like your teachers or your parents to understand about your experience this year? Go ahead, Anjali.
I would definitely want my teachers and like my mom and my father to understand that emotional and mental health does play into how motivated you are to go to school, to do that assignment. Like Vance said earlier previously about that social part of being in school. It's very hard when you're taken out of school just randomly, and then you're expected to sit at a computer at the comfort of your home, in front of your laptop, in front of your phone, in front of your TV, when you do want to do other things. So that emotional mental health does play a key role into trying to stay motivated and definitely just trying your hardest at any point of this pandemic. And I feel like a lot of teachers didn't understand that in the beginning, which I understand because, we're just switching, but parents and teachers need to definitely look at this like we're teenagers ourselves and we're being put in this position while still trying to juggle school and this pandemic.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that. Thanks for sharing that. Anyone else like to pass some information back to your teachers or your parents? Vance.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree. I think I've really learned the importance of engagement. I would absolutely agree that I think there's times when it seems like, maybe why am I not, as engaged as I was before, like doing as well as I was before. And I think it's important to remember the importance of, feeling satisfied with your work. So I know heading into college for me, I'm really going to make sure I'm surrounding myself with people that are interested and engaged, and try and take classes that I think I'll be really interested and engaged in, just because I think that's where I'll succeed the most. So I guess, yeah, the lesson of engagement and making sure to like keep everyone excited about the class is as important as it is to, you know, teach a certain thing.
Here's a follow-up for you, Vance. What does it mean to you to do well in school?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really complicated question. Obviously, you know, there's grades comes into play. I think they, you know, the goal of those is to represent our learning and our understanding. So it's just kind of a measurement of that. So I guess the deeper answer there would just be, you know, being able to go into school every day and feeling like I'm coming out with a new understanding, with some new knowledge or lesson gained. And also just feeling really passionate. I know I've had a lot of years of school in my life where I feel extremely passionate about the things I'm doing, the things I'm learning, the clubs I'm a part of. And that has definitely been something I struggled with more this year, just only being in school 2 days a week. So you know,
Yeah.
I love feeling, you know, satisfied and excited about school.
It's a good feeling, isn't it? Anyone else advice back to your teachers or to your parents? Something you'd like to pass on as recommendations, Will?
I think the conversations that I've had with teachers and with, like, I have friends who are faculty, or I like to call them friends, I guess. When they try to not, like, they take away themselves being teachers and they kind of just talk to us as like, oh, we're all going through the same global pandemic. Like, you get to bond with them on a more human level. And I think it makes being in school and being able to be in their classes or in their clubs, it just makes everything feel a lot more human and a lot more kind of like, I guess, understandable. And I feel like I'm able to relate to them on a much deeper level. And I think that just not being afraid to say that you don't know, like, if the answer, you don't know that everything's gonna kind of go back to normal soon, and just being like, yeah, it might still be not great, but we're getting through it together. And I think that camaraderie that comes out of that has been incredibly helpful for me, at least.
Great. Anyone else? Yeah, please, Denham.
I agree with Will. Being at like a new school, especially during a global pandemic, was really difficult for me. But here at St. Bernard's, the staff was amazing, and I have some teachers that I like to call friends, I guess, that I go to after school. I just talk about my day, and I think as a student to a teacher, I think it's good to know that we can still have that not equal, but we can talk to each other and kind of like debrief about the day. I think that's really good. And with counselors as well, just talk about the day with your students.
Good. Camille.
I would kind of like to add on to that. This year for me, I would definitely have to say that my work ethic may have like some days dropped, and instead of the teacher like coming up and like assuming that I'm just being lazy or this, teachers that come and ask me, they ask me what's wrong. I think that was huge. I think that's helped me most of my bad days. I think that helped me make my day better. I think a teacher just understanding or trying to understand why you're not doing your work instead of just assuming, oh, that this student is lazy or etc. I think that took a huge play into this year with my communication with teachers.
That's good. Several of you have said that. Yes, Loden, please.
Certainly, I agree with what Camille just said. We all lost motivation at some point in time when the pandemic hit, especially when it comes to school. I remember once I was at home and I told my brother that I wouldn't go to school. He said, listen, walking 2 steps from your bed to your desk is not going to school. You have to actually mentally be there. You have to focus with your teacher and understand what's going on. Although it's hard, you need to push yourself, give yourself that little push, because that's what's going to make the difference between those entrepreneurs and successful people in the future and those people who really will look back at it and wish that they had gotten up from bed. And the teachers have been extremely helpful when it comes to that. As Camille just stated, the teachers were more than helpful when it comes to the online learning, for instance. My English teacher actually took extra classes in psychology in order to help us all adapt with what we're going through. And I'm more than grateful for that because it helped me actually speak about my issues, my problems, how I feel about it. Whenever we have bad days, hear a lot of bad news from the school or from the world, our teacher is there making everything lenient. And I would just like to appreciate her and say thank you for everything that you have done.
That's nice. I'm sure that means a lot. That's great. I think Zaire, you're the last one for this question. You're on.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to echo what Will was saying and how, well, I guess in a little bit of a different way, but we're all going through this together. And I guess, my response to this question would be, we know just as much about what's going on in the world as, teachers, because we're all seeing it in real time, and social media is, a heck of a technology. And, a lot of us are seeing it in real time. We have the same reactions. And I think giving credit to the students and their feelings and their opinions is super important. I know, when I feel like I'm being heard and I feel like I'm being understood for my perspective and it's really being taken into account is where I feel like I can be the most myself, in a school community, in a school setting. And when you have teachers that, can understand that, and even parents that can understand that and understand that, sometimes I'm feeling overwhelmed. Sometimes you could be feeling overwhelmed. I think that is a huge thing for me.
Great, thank you. Appreciate your sharing. Beth, back to you.
So I'm going to pull a question from the Q&A section. Chris, a teacher in India, who they're teaching remotely, doesn't anticipate being back in school for quite a while, and is asking for any advice you have once his classes do resume. How can he best support his students and in that transition, which may be difficult or challenging? What can teachers do as students come back into the classroom to best support them? Was that a hand, Loden?
Yeah, that was a hand. Actually, something that I would really wish all teachers would do in the coming years after the pandemic is to go slow on students. Students were suddenly told that they had to do online learning. Just one day woke up and had to do all their studies through the screen. And then they had to do hybrid learning. And then suddenly they might go back to regular learning. So a lot of shifts and changes are happening to students. So teachers need to understand that and slowly help students adjust and return back to the normal life that they used to do. Maybe ask them questions. How are you feeling? Do you want to come to school today? And I think that students should be given that opportunity, at least at the beginning, to continue online learning up until they feel that they're comfortable to go back to school. Maybe they feel like they're socially anxious after being away from their fellow classmates for a long time.
Thank you, Loden. And we did have some questions about how students are coping with mental health as well. Vance?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting and tough question. But I think ultimately it's a balance between like understanding and leniency and structure. Because of course, I think as students, we all want to do well, and assuming that I think is helpful, and being there to support and kind of allow us to come back to school. But on the other hand, I think it's also really important to create the structure that we've been lacking. At least personally, I've been lacking for the last year. I think, while it's difficult, I think the classes I'm doing the best in and am the most engaged in are classes that have structure, that have deadlines, that have things that I can kind of look to, like, oh, I know this has to be due on this certain day. And that helps provide a structure, which then allows me to kind of become a student again.
Thank you, Vance. Zaire?
Yeah, this is both a response to this question and another question in the Q&A that was, do you learn enough about current events and social issues in the world? Will and I were the chair and co-chair of our School's Diversity Leadership Council. And, you know, one thing that we kind of stressed to the school this year and last year as well is that, you know, when these current events and stuff happen in the world, that is just an added level of pressure, especially if you relate to it when it comes to the school community as a whole. And there's a lot of tension there's a lot of tensions that teachers might not necessarily know about, you know, in between students and you know, the opinions that we may have on certain things. And I think it's important to come together as a school and, you know, even set some time aside to talk about those things. And that's one thing that the school has been trying to implement more and more this year is that, you know, school is not just about, you know, the chemistries and the algebras, but it's also about preparing people to go out into the real world. And if we don't talk about things that are happening in the real world, then what kind of preparation are you giving us? Mm-hmm. So I think, you know, that's one thing that needs to continue happening.
Okay. Thank you. Will?
Yeah, like I said, we've been really pushing that with especially our administration. And I think that on a broader scale, because I know you had mentioned questions that I saw in the Q&A about dealing with students' mental health. I think that take away the global pandemic, and this year's still been wild for all of these students, myself included. And I think, like Xavier said, taking the time to talk about current events, but also just taking the time to talk about just ourselves and about our well-being. I think we had a meeting, Zaire and I, with a faculty advisor, and we kind of ran out of things to say, and he just asked us how we were doing. And I was like, oh, that's refreshing and helpful. How are you coping with, you know, the world events and all the school and just like life in general? And I think that having that level of comfort with your students and with your kind of community to be able to take that time, whether it's talking about like anything that's happening in the world, anything that's happening in school, out of school, and just being able to have these dialogues, I think has been incredibly helpful for me, at least.
Thanks, Will. Anjali?
Yeah, someone had asked what would help the mental and emotional transition, and I just wanted to answer that really quickly.
Absolutely.
So for me personally, last year, my teacher, my awesome physics teacher, she would do a circle every Wednesday between us, and like that really did help us connect to one another, especially when we were feeling so isolated. Also, just getting to know your students one-on-one, talking to them, like Will said previously, it has a more human feel to it. It makes you understand that I'm not in this alone, even though I do feel like I am. So getting to understand your students, knowing where their head's at, and just being able to understand where they're coming from, and then trying to move forward with them. Because you can understand where someone's coming from no matter what. But if you're not trying to move forward with them, it's not going to go anywhere. So definitely like talk to them, understand where their mind's at, where their head's at, where they're slacking and why. And then that will help you move forward with them.
Thank you, Anjali. How about our St. Bernards?
I think that this year, besides COVID, has been crazy, especially like with the BLM movement, presidential elections, just everything. And my mental health personally has been all over the place, especially as a teenager, like already before the pandemic, before all that stuff. My head's been all over the place, but I think that, again, teachers, at least here, are very human, I don't see them as teachers, but I do see them as like a bigger role model, someone I could look up to, someone I can always go to for help. And here at St. Bernard's, we do talk a lot about current events, and teachers are very open to have any conversation, are ready for any topic. So that's really good here as well.
Thanks, Denim. Do you want to add to that, Camille?
As Denim said, I feel like the teachers here are very good on like keeping us up to date and kind of being reasonable about the real world, and like understanding that different students have opinions and we all have opinions. And the transition is that like we can't like not face the fact that the world is going through crazy changes, and the pandemic, obviously, like that is still like very hard for us students and teachers. But I think the teachers teachers helping us to still unite as like students in classrooms, like still come together to a point. And even if we disagree or not, I think that was huge here. I think that no matter our opinions or anything, we always were able to come together as one to connect and agree with something and disagree with others. But I think St. Bernard's did a very good job with that.
Great. Jim?
Yeah, thank you, Beth. I have a question about group activities that did or didn't happen over the course of the year. So this would be like a drama production or team sports or any performing arts, dance. How did it happen? Did you have some experience along those lines in your school year? And just a little conversation around what has it been like to be curtailed and to have some of those things taken away because of the circumstances. Would anyone like to take a shot at that? Yeah, let's go with Camille.
So I'm a soccer player here at St. Bernard's. This year it was pretty tough as we had to wear masks, practices had to be changed, contact was very minimal. It was very difficult to try to play the sport the normal way. We did try our best, like instead of throw-ins, we did pass-ins, like we had to do temperature checks, we had to use hand sanitizer. Like it was tough, and it was like mentally tiring to like try to like do it all and keep your mask on while you're running outside on the hot weather. Like it was like tough. And I think that St. Bernard's did do it the right way to try to still keep the sport like enjoyable. But I do believe that it was very difficult to work with the masks.
Yeah. Anyone else? Sure, Will.
So our school, I actually feel incredibly fortunate. So we were able to have a fairly normal season. I also play soccer in the fall. Fairly normal season with that. Like Camille said, we did have to use masks and kind of adapt how we play the game a little bit, but we were able to have interscholastic games. We were able to kind of have a bit of a season. It did get cut short due to COVID, but we were able to get a couple of games against our rival schools. I'm also in the theater program. We did our Maine winter musical online, which was very interesting to say the least. But we had a spring production play, which we were able to do outside in person and have an audience of kind of members of the community, teachers, parents, students. And we've just been able to start to get back towards normal, albeit different, like slightly different, but we've been able to keep most of our performing arts and our and a lot of our sports actually alive at St. Luke's, which I feel incredibly fortunate about.
Good. Yeah, Vance.
Yeah, I'd definitely say like the extracurricular activities provided a good sense of community and consistency for me when there was a lot of that lacking in other areas. For instance, like right now I have practice every day and we can go and we have to wear masks, but I can see people, I see the same set of people every day. We're able to, you know, progress, work hard, do the things we want to do. And that's really helped me to like have that structure, have that community, and all of that stuff. I would say a lot of clubs, like school-wise, you know, civics clubs, stuff like that, haven't been able to meet as much this year, which has been really difficult, and I think made school more challenging.
Yeah. There was one other hand that went up there. Oh, Denham, please.
So I play basketball and I did volleyball at St. Bernard's. And I found that when I was doing those sports that my grades were going up. Mentally, I was like happier. So I think that if you can in your schools to definitely get those sports up and running in a safe way, of course, but I think that it really does help students with their grades and mentally as well.
Yeah, it's so true that if you get to do those activities, your grades go up. Isn't that interesting? You're working harder, you're more exhausted, and your grades are going up. Anjali.
I definitely agree with Denim and what she said. I've been playing basketball since I was like 8. So when the pandemic hit and basketball, that privilege was taken away from me, it really did have an effect on my mental health and like my grades, especially. Basketball definitely helped me, did keep my grades up because I wanted to play. I wanted to be out there and do my thing. So when that was like, hey, this program, we can't do it this year. And then even this year, still having that privilege taken away from me, it was very hard, but I'm glad to see that I was pushed out of my comfort zone to do debate. And that definitely helped with my confidence and just helped me get back on track with my mental, emotional, and just physical health altogether.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I'm going to, Loden, please.
I just wanted to quickly share that although we had to do online for quite a while and clubs could not meet as often or do extracurricular activities as they did before, we still managed to host those events, even if they were over Zoom calls. With celebrities, actually, we had several influencers join us and speak to students either about mental health or to speak to seniors about what they can do about their lives, what they can approach differently. And we also had the opportunity to just get together, meet each other, even if it was online through a Zoom call. And the debate club at school also continued very well. Students continued to debate and host sessions and learn and coach, being a debate coach myself. And I think that although there are difficulties, this pandemic just made everyone much more resilient and creative in terms of how to tackle those issues. And it will continue making us this way.
Yeah, thank you. Zaire, would you like to speak to this question, or we can go to the next question?
I think I'm all good on this one.
Okay, I'm going to go over to Beth. And Beth, we have a few more minutes. Do you have a question ready to go?
Sure. So, in the chat, a couple people asked about courses or classes that were generally more hands-on. And so whether you were learning remote or constrained by distance learning, were there some classes or courses which were more difficult than others during this past year? Anjali.
I'm sorry. I just because I go to a vocational high school, I do dental assisting. So we make molds, we do like CPR, we're learning OSHA right now. And having to transition to online, you don't get the real experience, you don't get the actual curriculum because you have to do it hands-on. So moving from in person where I'm able to do everything that I need to do and then just going online and just having to watch it was very hard, and like actually learning it was completely crazy. Like it was very hectic at a lot of moments and stuff. So there's that. And math was very hard already. And then it just got harder as I got older and like as the curriculum went on, physics too. But I have great teachers, so it worked out.
Thanks, Anjali. Others? Somebody had asked about science in particular. Camille?
So this year, by far, one of my toughest classes has to be chemistry, as like it is a pretty hands-on class. Like we use a lot of like chemical reactions, and this year my teacher, instead of doing those hands-on, even in person, we did have to watch a lot of videos, which I think was very tough because like there's a whole different experience between watching a video and doing it on your own. But I would have to say that's one of my toughest classes this year.
Thank you. Any others? Otherwise, Jim, I'll toss it back to you. Maybe you want to ask about sleep. Oh, you're on mute though.
We are going to go with my sleep question.
Yeah.
Was there, or tell us about the change in your amount of sleep, and did it work for you or against you? And this was a question prompted by someone in the audience who wanted to know more about the sleep issue. We know that you are not getting enough sleep, so I'm just curious whether you got more this year or not. And I don't know where to start. I'll start. Oh, Zaire, you're on.
Yeah, this is actually something I've focused a lot more on, focused on getting more sleep this year, just because I have the ability to. obviously, having to be at school at 8 o'clock and driving. I live like an hour away from my school. So I'm usually up at 6:15 and I'm usually not asleep till 11:30, 12 based on how much work I have. But this year, I've had especially when we were online for the time we were, I don't have to get up till 8:45 for a 9 o'clock class. So, just getting my sleep schedule together, especially last year, when, I can go to sleep at 12 and still get almost 9 hours of sleep. But this year, going back to school and having, to make that drive again, I focused a lot more on, getting to bed earlier. Usually sleep by like 10, maybe 10:30 nowadays. And I'm able to get up at 6:30, 6:45, and still get to school by, the time class starts. So that's something I focus a lot more on, and it's definitely helped me get more things done in a more efficient time span because, I know by 10 o'clock, my body's going to be exhausted. So,
Yeah, good. Well, thanks for starting us off on this question. Anyone else thoughts on sleep and how it's worked in your life this year? Vance?
Yeah, definitely. No, I'd really agree with Claire. I think there have been points during this whole pandemic where like I just kind of got more sleep because, yeah, maybe I had only online classes or we had, a break from school for whatever reason. And I was like, I think I just realized I was like, wow, this feels really great. And it wasn't something I'd necessarily experienced to that degree before. And yeah, I agree. So now this year I've been like putting in more of an effort to get more sleep because of course, while staying up late for work and getting up early for school was an issue in the past, I think it also came back a lot to time management and, not starting my homework until later. But now I know that I really do want to get more sleep because it actually, like, I can feel the difference. And yeah, so just getting a better sleep schedule has been great.
Yeah, good. Camille?
So at first, I really enjoyed the sleeping in and the going to bed late, but later on, it just hit me. I didn't feel good about myself waking up really late and just kind of opening my computer and like in bed and just joining a classroom. Like it eventually hit me where like I wanted to get up earlier and kind of take that time that I had and be productive. I wanted to help myself out and do my chores in the morning. And I wanted to do more things throughout the day, knowing I had the time to do it. So it was a pro and cons for me, but I think taking my time wisely has helped me become a lot more independent and helpful throughout my house. Sorry.
Thank you. Anyone else on sleep? A good topic. Will, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we were, St. Luke's was online basically from March to the end of the year last year. And that was end of my sophomore year. So I had a bit more, less work. I had a bit more kind of free time. And I was really able reap the benefits of online classes. And I was feeling great. And then this year I realized I just can't tell if it's a workload issue or if it's just a burnout issue. It's been a bit more all over the place. And I think that, like Vance said, I've taken for granted a lot of that kind of change that happened when we were online. Now that we're kind of fully back in person. And I think it makes you reevaluate your relationship with sleep a lot, which I think was very interesting.
Anyone else? Well, Beth, I'm going to hand off to you. You get the last question.
Oh my gosh. So as we wrap up, is there anything that you miss the most or you're most looking forward to as restrictions are lifted and you're moving forward the end of the school year? Or any final comments that you'd like to share? It's been such a pleasure to have you all with us. Camille, you're ready to go.
So one thing I am very excited to see, hopefully when these masks come off, is just to see people's emotions, to be able to look at a person and tell if they're smiling or if they're actually upset. I think that's huge. And I like to know how people are feeling, and I like to make people laugh, and I like to see my teachers' faces. And I think that's huge, and I just can't wait to be able to feel that and see that again.
Thanks, Camille. Loden?
I think that one of the most important things that I would be very happy to see come back, it's just that interaction, that human interaction. It's not the same when we're speaking over the screen than it is when you can actually talk to someone face to face, look them in the eye, have that conversation with them, study with your classmates. One of the hardest things about online learning is certainly the isolation or the loneliness, or having to do it when you're at home alone and then your friends are at another house and everyone is just separated. It's not the same when you all laugh in one classroom and it's all echoing, or when you're all sat together. So just that human interaction, it's something to look forward to.
Thank you. Anyone else? Vance?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I definitely miss that human interaction. That's a huge thing. But I also definitely really miss that feeling of engagement. I know I talked about that a few times, like just being able to come into school every day and feeling really motivated, engaged, like really enthusiastic about all my classes. And it's not that I haven't had any of that this year. It just hasn't been the same though. I think without the consistency, without seeing my teachers and my peers every day, it's just been so much harder to engage and to get connected to all my schoolwork. And that's something I really miss is, just feeling really passionate about all that stuff.
Thanks, Vance. We are exactly at 10 o'clock, so I want to thank you all again, thank our panelists. It's been such a pleasure to see you all this morning. I wish we were in the same room, but we're not. And everyone who joined us today over Zoom. So for our wonderful student panelists, my co-host, Jim, and everybody at NEASC, thank you. I'm Beth Hamilton, and it's been a pleasure to spend time with you this morning. So we'll say goodbye and let everybody get back to class.
Good luck today, Will, on your AP, and thank you all very much. You're wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going.
Bye-bye.